Guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So recently we looked at Morphcat Games Collection 1 and Intellivision Collection 2. In this video I'm going to give you some additional thoughts to help you decide if you need to buy these carts. And first off, we're going to look at Morphcat Games Collection 1, which is packaged as only 3 games and 2 bonus games, which I think is a little bit misleading. It really should just package it as 5 games. It's just a bit pointless marketing ploy there. So there are 5 games on the cart. And you also get included these lovely sort of student ID cards. They're just basically cards with some information on some of the characters and the games within the cart. There's also some scan codes that you can scan on your phone and takes you to other sort of sites and some information. Nice touch, but at the same time I'm kind of feeling like I'm 10 or something collecting cards. Which are really not for me. The manual is very informative though. It does provide a lot of information, mainly for Morphcat Games Micro Mages, which is great. Onto the games themselves, there are some really great games. Bobble, for instance, is absolutely fantastic, but the big issue for me is how short these games are. Pretty much all the games on the cart you could probably finish in 20 minutes to 30 minutes and maybe even quicker. You might even take longer depending on your gameplay style, but they are not hugely in-depth games. Yes, they are all extremely good. They are all a lot of fun to play, but you'll probably play this cart within a few days and you will probably never return to it again. Unless, however, you like 4-player games, 2-player games, then you will probably get more out of Micro Mages, for instance, because obviously Micro Mages you can play 2-player, 3-player, 4-player, but only if you actually own the Evercade VS. Now guys, if you do own the Evercade VS, you will get a lot more out of this cart than if you just own the handheld. For you can play 2-player, 3-player or 4-player game in Micro Mages, and it's absolutely brilliant as a multiplayer game. I've recently played this 2-player game with my son Cade, and we had an absolute blast. It really was great fun. And if you're looking for a great multiplayer game, this is definitely one for you. However, you can play as a single player, it doesn't really matter. Generally the 4-player game or 2-player game, you're either competing against each other or you're helping against each other. You don't really need to play it as a multiplayer game to experience the game. You can play it single player, it doesn't really make any difference. But it is good fun, so it's definitely got a little bit of value there if you're interested in your multiplayer game. It's not the largest of games either, it is a little bit short. Now the best thing about this cart is probably this Micro Mages Second Quest, which is something of an exclusive title at the moment for Evercade. And it's basically just more levels. It's like a DLC style addition to this cart. It's entitled as a bonus addition, but it's really it's more levels for Micro Mages. And if you love the first one, you're really going to enjoy that one as well. It's just more or less the same game, more levels. So guys, we're moving on to Space Girls, which is also a fantastically addictive game. I think this is probably my favourite game of the cart, but it's very short as well. So it's criminally short. You could complete it in 8 minutes if you're really good. Super Bat Puncher, it's entitled a demo. It's really good fun, but again, it's another short title. So you really have to toss up thinking, do you want to pay this? There's very few games. They are all short. You're hardly going to get great value out this for your money. But there are some great multiplayer games if you want on the VS. Now moving on to Intellivision Collection 2, which I really had a tough time playing this due to the controls. The controls are really hard going on the Evercade VS and the handheld. It really is not great. You get cards as well with this, and this is really only for those that probably had that Intellivision at the time. These are obviously like your insert cards for your handheld controller, so you could actually know what the controls were. The actual manual is really good. Only for 2 games though. It's got a lot of in-depth information that you will need for Cloudy Mountain and Tower of Doom. However, for the other games there's only a single page per game, which is a little bit criminal because some of the games have a lot of information in the original manuals that you actually need to be able to understand how to play these games properly. So even though we've got some great details in 2 games, the rest of the games don't have enough information. As you can see, just single pages for the other games. And some of the games okay, but there are a few like Auto Racing, you need a little bit extra information. For instance, Auto Racing, you can see on the screen here, you need to actually switch controllers to the second controller to actually start the game and control it properly, which is absolutely crazy. Yes, this is how the game was controlled in the original Intellivision, but it's absolutely crazy that we still have that emulated on the Evercade. It just makes it a bit of a mockery, and even if the controls were perfect, it wouldn't make a difference because this game is absolutely crap either way. It doesn't matter. It just makes it even more frustrating, the fact you need to switch controllers to play the actual game. And unfortunately, I found that similar sort of things for a lot of the games on this cart. There are a lot of games I'm really not going to play a lot of. Now, admittedly, there are a lot of fans out there for Cloudy Mountain, but personally, I just don't understand it. I think it's only those that had an Intellivision back in the day that will really get the most out of the two games like Cloudy Mountain and Tower of Doom. They are quite clearly the best games on the cart. I don't really get Cloudy Mountain, I don't see what the fascination is with it, but there are fans out there, and this is going to be for the fans only. There are some other really good games out there like Hover Force. That's not bad. The controls take a little bit of getting used to as well. There's some other driving games such as Motocross, which is just painful to actually play. The controls are all over the place. It's probably better than auto racing, there's no doubt, but it's still hard work. The ski racing is actually alright. Probably one of the games I preferred most of on the cart. But I think there's a lot of depth to the actual ski racing. You can actually design your own courses, but there's a lack of information in the manual to actually tell you. I couldn't get Reversi to work. I think I was pressing a few wrong buttons, but anyway, it wasn't clear how to actually start the game. And Sharp Shot, I don't see the point of. It's one of these games you'll play once and never go back to. It's absolutely pointless. You can also play 4 different games. You've got American football style game where you really only control. You don't control anything. You just press the button to chuck the ball at the right time, and that's really it. That's really pretty dull and unexciting. And the other games are pretty much the same as well. You've got Stadium Mud Buggies. Admittedly, there's a lot of detail in this, and you really need more information on the manual to help you. There's a lack of information. It really is a painful game to play. Super Pro Decathlon. Not really the most ideal game to play on a D-pad when you need to sort of waggle it back and forth to get your best times and make that sprint work. But yeah, the best game in the cart for me is Tower of Doom, which I definitely enjoyed. I'm sure I'll definitely come back and play this game. It does seem to have a lot going for it. I think this game definitely stands out as being the best on the cart, but that could be arguably, people might disagree with that and think Cloudy Mountain's the better game. Personally, I prefer this one. It's kind of an action-adventure RPG style game, but the big problem with a lot of these games, they have dated really badly, and you kind of think, why did Blaze pick games that were complicated to control? Because they did admit in the first cart they only chose games that were easy to emulate and control, yet in this cart they've went against what they said, and they've got games here that are an absolute nightmare to control. And yeah, you can stick both Intellivision collections in and get a free game unlockable on your Evercade VS. This kind of zombie style game, which is actually alright. It's good enough fun to play for a couple of times, and that's it. Obviously it looks pretty dated, which I think most of the games look pretty dated. I think for me, I don't think we needed a second Intellivision collection. The 2 D&D games could really have been added to the first collection, and that would have been fine for me. I don't think we need any more. A lot of these games are very dated. It's nice that they included these cards, but at the same time, who are they for? I think this cart is definitely for the fans only. Those that grew up with an Intellivision and have nostalgia for it. For everyone else, it's really not a cart you want to be looking at unless you really want to play Cloudy Mountain and Tower of Doom. It really is up to you. Personally, it's one of those ones I really wished I probably hadn't bought, because I'm not going to play it an awful lot. And it's probably going to be one of the carts that's going to be my least favourite, along with Worms. So guys, they're my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Are you going to buy these carts? Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and we'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.